When we are caterpillars resting in the warmth of our cocoons, trying to emerge as this beautiful sacred creature, majestic, delicate, in different form, we must struggle to break free. We must push against the walls of our confining previous form, slipping into another form is not easy. And similarly, when a seed starts to take root, it pushes outward, little tentacles popping through the shell to find a rock or a pebble or something to grab onto. But it indeed has to pop its original form. It is a process of change. It is a transmutation from one state to another. And similarly, what we find in reality shifting is that when we are shifting identities, which is central to changing the inside, which will then catalyze changing the outside much faster, what we find is that it's not an immediate step. And you go through this magic gate, and there's a choir singing for you, people cheering like you've made it to the end of the race. Ta-da! No, it's not like that. What it's actually like is you have these little moments where you embody this upgraded version of you. You feel different. Your posture might change. And all of a sudden, the world starts to shift around you. And if you are in tune with your sensory system and being able to detect these shift events, you can actually observe it. You can literally observe the world just morph in front of you as you start to embody this transformed version of you. But for most people, early on in the reality shifting journey, especially, this is undetected by the eyes for reasons that I've covered in other episodes. And so as a result, what this means is that you have to practice and have faith that things are working out, even if it seems slower than you want, even if you take one step forward and 2 steps back. Because what this means is that you are between different states of being. And the way I like to think of it, and this is just the present day conceptualization, is loading behavior paradigms or a behavioral program. The way you respond to your external world depends on who you are inside. And so when you start to shift your identity, you start to shift your role, how you think of yourself, your self-concept is very, very important to understand. You can check out the first episode, Roles and Identities, in this series. I have a playlist on YouTube that covers this more in detail. But when you start to shift that person inside, what this actually means is that you're starting to discover new ways of operating in your immediate surroundings. And this is why it's worthwhile to experiment. If you're used to reacting in a certain way, then try to do something different. And if a person or a situation tends to elicit a certain response in you, try to reconfigure the arrangement. See how it feels. Change things up. And what you'll find is that as you start to shift and transform, you naturally will load different behaviors in you, just like your posture changing, as I mentioned earlier. You will actually be and carry a different energy, which is what people are talking about when they say you need to become a vibration to your desired reality to shift into it. What this means is that you have to have the embodiment. It can't just be a wish or an idea in your mind, but you know that, of course. It has to be the full presence, believable to the person that you think yourself to be. Meaning, the self-concept, the picture of you that you have in your mind, needs to absolutely believe with all of their heart that that transformed person is actually them. What happens where people, I think, go too fast is that they chart out this desired plan or this desired reality. I might even script it out. And then they follow all of the techniques and the processes that work for them. So let's say they write it out several times a week, pair it with the feeling of gratitude and forgiveness. And what happens is that ideally, the way this is supposed to work is that you reinforce by writing it out. You reinforce on a regular practice schedule in your mind who you are trying to show up as. So when you are confronted with situations, you have a choice. Do I act as the old self, or do I act as my, quote, higher self, or the person that I'm trying to turn into? And at first, this might require a lot of logic and rationality. You might have to analyze it. That's fine. That's part of the process. You might have to review your behavior. Was that in alignment? How do I feel about that? Do I need to do anything differently? That's a very head-like process. And that's important for bringing your conscious mind to the party. But to actually get there, you have to embody it more completely in a way that it is absolutely believable to the person that is sitting inside your avatar. And when you do that, and you carry your vibration, the essence of you, it beams out from inward to outward in an unmistakable way. And it actually, this is the crazy thing, shifts the way you see things. It actually, when you really start to make that change and you really start to turn into that butterfly just for a moment, and this is the key thing that I want to leave you with. We still have more time, but this is really important. It's just a moment at first. You poke your head out of the cocoon and then you go back in. You poke your head out and you go back in. And when you poke your head out, what happens is that you might see something that used to trigger you in one way completely different. You might have no attachment to it all of a sudden. You might have even forgotten what it felt like to be so triggered, to be so desirous of whatever person, thing, or even substance. And so as a result, when you shift your relationship to the outside world and the things that used to hold power over you also shifts. like water off of a duck's feathers. Are you like, interesting. That's how you know you're making it to your desired reality. You're making it to your manifestation. And concurrently, that struggle, most people, when they think about struggling for a period of time, don't volunteer for that, right? Nobody usually signs up. Yeah, I'm going to spend 5 years of my life struggling really hard. And yeah, that sounds great. Sign me up. Yeah. No, most people actually want an easy time. And this is what the manifestation process is about for a lot of people, is alleviating some pain point or struggle in their life, optimizing their reality in some practical way that brings a world to them that they prefer to live in. And yet, when we reframe the struggle experience, what we'll find is that if you are serious, really serious about your manifestation goals, particularly if they are big, if you have big ambitions, big dreams, big visions that require a big change in you, if you're really serious about that, my advice is to seek out struggle, to seek out the triggering events, because that's when you know you're working towards that big manifestation dream. And at a certain point, it's harder to be triggered. The relationship to triggers changes, and it's not that life is triggerless, because there's still triggers, but it's almost as though when you see things for what they are, they don't hold the same weight. And when you understand that people's journey is their journey, and they're showing up to their side of the reality, the shared reality layer, with their lessons, their patterns, their wounds, and you can see their work without taking it on, you don't feel responsible for their experience anymore. And you don't feel like you need to do some of the things that you used to do, like rush to make them feel better, especially when they are battling a projection in their mind. But sometimes you might still do that out of kindness, but you do so with intentional kindness and compassion, as opposed to this sickly arrangement where their emotional state somehow affected your emotional state in a perverse way. And so you would rush to try to make sure that everything was okay, sometimes preemptively. And this pattern could be hard to drop. It can take some practice. But as you start to drop that pattern and you start to let people have their experiences and then honor where they're at, and hold space for where they're at, but not letting it dictate, making yourself smaller or changing you in a core fundamental way. And what happens is that you're less triggered in general. Really, it's kind of a miracle. And when you are triggered, it's usually because of your own personal work. And as you continue to do that personal work and you continue to solve your patterns and your wounds, then even that fades away. So you start to live life in this peaceful state in the everyday. This is my everyday. And as a result, you welcome triggering events. you are interested in them, because this is at least how I approach it. I'm like, and that's weird. I need to explore that. Do I have a blind spot here? Okay, what's going on? How do I feel about this? It gives you the opportunity to update your frameworks, to understand your emotions even deeper, to peel back layers that you didn't even know that you had. And I personally find it so enjoyable that it's kind of addictive. I absolutely do. It is that enjoyable because I know that I'm poking my head out as a result. And the culmination of that experience and that wisdom and tinkering around with my psychology and my emotional maps and my unconscious wiring, creating a masterpiece that I am so in love with and happy to share with the world. There is nothing in the world, plural worlds, like this experience. And so when we understand the purpose of struggle and where it's leading us, it's sort of like, if you're really, really in for the ride, and it's a beautiful, beautiful journey, struggle is the way to get there. And you can always modulate your struggle. I've had times that I've had to ask the universe for a break, and the universe honored that, thankfully, because I was like, I can't do it anymore. I'm at a boundary. And so it's up to you to modulate the work and to make sure that you're working at a pace that is comfortable but uncomfortable for you in a way that you can handle. And by that logic, you're training for the race of a lifetime, the event of a lifetime, the manifestation of a lifetime. And this is why I love the entrepreneurial journey, because it challenges you at a very, very deep level that requires self-examination and struggle and this rapid transformation. It really is like this. Sometimes I see it like this little wisp of light that is chaotically flitting around, trying to change its form, trying to expand and grow, but there's something that's compressing it, and some outside force. And every iteration of change knocks that outside force off just for a moment, and then the light can shine brighter, and then the outside force is back. And then there's more flitting back and forth. And this time, when the little wisp of light pushes the opposing force, it expands into an even bigger and longer essence until finally it makes it. And when you see it like that, then there is only one option, and that is success. But the road and the time to get there may vary depending on your psychology, your internal wounds, your circumstances. And for certain, there are those that have had their light dimmed and are being crushed under the weight of oppression. And oppression can take many different forms. And that can be addiction, that can be toxic relationships, that can be poverty, that can be self-defeat, self-sabotage, and other patterns that are asking to be broken. If you would like help breaking those patterns, you can email me at sacredjourneyproductions@gmail.com. Okay, we'll talk soon.